Bracha Goetz. Welcome to Seeking the Beyond Theology with Jono. Um, can you please tell me, how did your spiritual journey begin, and did you experience a calling at any point?
Okay, I would say my spiritual journey began at age 12. I I had just finished reading The Diary of Anne Frank, and I started my own diary. And that book had a big effect on me. And also, it was like I was changing at that time into an adolescent, from a girl into an adolescent. So, like, my body was changing and my soul was changing at the same time. It was like a consciousness expansion, and I began to search for more meaning in life beginning at age 12. So maybe, and you mentioned the word calling. Maybe I would say that as the years continued, my search for meaning in life became more and more desperate. Like, I really couldn't believe this was all there is, and there was more to life. So I started to develop food addictions, like eating disordered behavior. So maybe I'm going to call that a calling, because it was calling for help. I Later on, I realized that what was happening was that I was making my body look like my soul. In other words, my body was starving because really my soul was starving. It was like a call for help.
Hmm.
And I wasn't just starving. It was like I would be very restrictive with dieting, but then I would have binges, uncontrollable binges, and I feel like that was like desperately searching for more,
Mm.
because I wasn't satisfied with life the way it was. And really, I didn't have a difficult life at all. In fact, because all my physical needs were met in the world, I could search for more and say, is this all there is, or is there something more? It was like, it was like I didn't have like a traumatic childhood or anything. And so I feel like I'm like one of those test tube controls where I had everything I basically needed, and I still could realize that something essential was missing. And that was the understanding that I was a soul in addition to just having a body. Yeah.
Mm. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? So your soul was not being nourished properly, so your body wasn't being nourished properly as well.
It,
Is that what was going on?
it was a call for help. I see it as a symptom, like, like, you know, but I really see all addictions that way now.
Hmm.
I see that addictions are what we're all searching for, is lasting pleasure in life.
Mm.
So we try desperately to fill it with externalities, but that hole inside of us is real, but it's not a physical hole. And until we recognize that it needs spiritual fulfillment in order to be satisfied, we can't fill that hole. It gets deeper and deeper the more we get into our addictions. Um, the behavior gets more and more bizarre, and addictions are done in secret. So nobody
Mm.
knows how a person's suffering. And meanwhile, you just are digging it deeper and deeper, the hole, and you're not
Right.
filling it. But recognizing that it's genuine, and we need to nourish our hungry souls, because that's really the only way to live a fulfilling life.
What you said to me, Bracha, it resonates so closely. When I was a young man in Sydney, I was not nourishing my soul at all, and I was filling my body with my own addictions. So I can absolutely empathize with what you're telling me here, and it's remarkable how we try to fill that pit with something.
Isn't it something? Here you are across the world from me, but we are both souls.
Mm-hmm.
We, our souls can connect because really we're all one soul.
Mm-hmm.
We're just placed in different bodies, but it's all one connection, and we are all connected to the same energy source. It's flowing through all of us. So these addictions are all over the world. They're so widespread. They're more than ever because we're not recognizing that we're souls in need of
Mm.
nourishment. And the more we can spread that, like you're doing with this podcast and in your life, helping people to heal, this is what the world needs now
Oh, thank you so
so
much.
much. Yeah.
Can you think of the first time your faith was seriously challenged by something?
Um, it wasn't like my faith was challenged because I didn't even know to believe in anything. I
Mm.
remember asking my father, like, what's the purpose of life? Like, what are you living for? And I remember he was shaving at the time. I'm sitting there talking to him while he's shaving, and I said, he goes, oh, I don't know. I just want to see what's going to happen tomorrow. That's why I'm living. Like he said, it's kind of like watching a TV show. I just want to see what's going to happen next. I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't, that's not good enough for me. Like I
Mm.
need more. So I began my quest, into all different religions then. It was like my father, who I looked up to, that wasn't good enough for me. I needed something more. And and that was so one of my quests was searching for life's wisdom. At one point, I started to do really well in school because I was searching everywhere for wisdom.
Mhm.
And that's how I ended up going to Harvard because I got really good grades and I just loved learning about everything. So when I got there, maybe that was a challenge to my faith because I thought that was it. Like I thought, okay, I've really achieved. I remember I got to this invited to this really exclusive garden party with like the children of like the most famous people, like Kennedy's, Rockefellers, Moynihan's,
Wow.
and we were there. I fact I went to school with Bill Gates. He was in my
Oh,
dorms.
yes.
So like,
Amazing.
yeah, so I knew like all these people, and to recognize he wasn't famous then. He was considered a total nerd. Like he was always in the computer room, with Steve Ballmer, the his his assistant at Microsoft, and they were just like we had one computer in the whole dorm, and he was just sitting there fooling around with it like for hours and hours, and he was like, oh, like we just considered him so antisocial and nerdy, but like it's funny. But like I all these other like children of the most famous people, and just meeting them up close and realizing they were just like me, and they too are just looking for something more, looking beyond who they're talking to, trying to, what are they searching for? I knew there was something more. And it was this beautiful day in May at this garden party, and it starts all of a sudden like this the sky filled up with these storm clouds, and there was a tremendous thunderstorm, and the whole party was ruined. And I felt, look at that, the most famous, powerful people, they can't stop the rain from coming down on their party, Like I said to myself, there is
Mm.
something more, but I don't know what it is. So I, in fact, got even more despondent after that. Like I've reached the pinnacle, the top of this mountain where I thought there was something like fame, fortune, prestige, power. There's nothing up here. And I'm blessed that I got to see that early on in life because many people just go after that illusion for years and years of their
Mm.
life till they discover there's nothing. And I got to see that. And then I actually got sicker and sicker as I felt like there's nothing to this and I didn't really even want to live. It's hard to believe. Like I just felt so, life seemed so pointless. It
Mm,
seems, but that's how it was. I began to feel, and then I went to medical school. And I'm doing research at Harvard, breakthrough research on eating disordered behavior while I'm getting sicker and sicker and I'm doing the research, you know? So like intellectual understanding didn't cut it, you know? And
mm,
um and then I went on to medical school where I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And again, I want to help people live and find meaning in life, but I didn't know what the purpose was. So,
mm.
um, yeah, I then I went to Israel that summer after my first year of medical school to volunteer at Hadassah Hospital on the oncology ward. And basically I met an old friend in Israel. I said, I want to learn the purpose of life to help my patients someday. And he goes, yeah, you need to learn it. Okay, I'm going to take you to some schools where you're going to really learn about it. And he did. And I got to learn like really ancient, timeless wisdom
Yes.
based on the Kabbalah. And I, I be, they were actually talking about what is the purpose of life. And for the first time, things made sense to me that I could integrate into my life.
That's absolutely fascinating. And you know, that that comment you made, all these successful, wealthy, and influential people couldn't stop the rain.
Yeah.
So there must be more. There must be, and you went searching for it. You went searching for it. And I think that's so wonderful and interesting the way that you did that. Can you think of an event or a difficult episode in your life where your faith and spirituality carried you through?
Carried me through. Well, it carries me through all the time now because I'll still get these feelings. It's like a habit to overeat when you're feeling anxious, depressed, even when you're feeling too happy, like you don't know what to do with these feelings. You don't know how to process your feelings. You feel uncomfortable, basically. Um, and when you get, when you're in an addiction, you're self-focused
Mm,
and you feel cut off, alienated, you feel estranged. So what you really need is connection. And
yes.
what you're craving is lasting pleasure. So that's why people will keep stuffing their faces because it's pleasurable. So I
Mm,
might as well just keep the pleasure coming because you don't want to feel the pain. It covers it up. It works, you know? But really, what fills us up, what gives us lasting pleasure and connection is gratitude. So then, like what I learned about is the pleasure ladder.
hmm.
It has 5 levels, which correspond to our 5 fingers to show us like we have it in our hands. Yes, we can bring pleasure into our lives at any moment. We have that power. It's not dependent on anything that happens to us. We can bring it into our lives. So the 5 levels of pleasure, they correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. It's universal. And the lowest level of pleasure it's the level of the soul that's connected to our bodies.
Hmm.
So it's the part that enjoys all the natural physical pleasures in this world. They were designed for our pleasure. Like like an orange, like an orange is such a perfect example because it's like all the fruit are green when they are still growing and getting ready for us. They're camouflaged in with the leaves. And when they are ready, they call to us, we're ready. They become right the most vivid color. They're their most vivid color. They're calling to us. They're ready. So they're beautiful to look at. They smell beautiful. And And the sweet juiciness is kept in for months with this incredible peel. It keeps it in for months, ready until we experience it. And then at the end, we're left with the seeds, the seeds so that it can become trees and infinite more oranges. So one little orange is packed with so much loving kindness and infinite intelligence
It
by the
is. That's
designer.
remarkable.
Yeah, that's what all of life is like. This garden was created for us, and
Yeah.
we've gone so off from that. We've got so estranged and we complicate things. But like this is how the world was made, for us to enjoy with gratitude. That's the secret ingredient. This nourishes our bodies, and then the gratitude nourishes our souls. When we experience gratitude, mindful gratitude, when we eat the orange, that's it. That is pleasure. That gives us lasting pleasure in life. That fills us up so that we don't
Absolutely,
have
it
to just
does.
keep, yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful. And I love finding the pleasure and gratitude in the everyday thing. I think that's such a wonderful outlook to have. You did mention the 5 levels of the soul. Would you be willing to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I have, here's a chart, the levels. The next level up is love. Now,
Yes.
love, it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't seem empowering. It's dependent on other people. But no, this ancient definition of love is focusing on the virtues of another. We can bring love into our lives at any moment without anybody else being there, by just focusing on what we appreciate about someone else. So even in jail, a person could think of a grandmother that once did a kindness for them, and they are uplifted, they're inspired, they get a warm emotional feeling of love to become a better person, even without anybody being there, just focusing on another's virtue. That's how we bring love into our lives at any moment.
Hmm.
And so, even in solitary confinement in prison, or in the prison of an addiction, a
Mm.
person can bring love into their lives. Meaning is the next level up, doing something good and meaningful. Like you've heard all this before, like you've heard, like on the lowest level, um, eating healthy, natural foods, exercise, moving our bodies, dancing, gardening, running, all of these things, music. We've learned that all these things uplift us, but now we can know why in a spiritual way,
Mm.
because when we experience them with gratitude, it nourishes both our body and our soul. The same thing with love. When we experience another person with gratitude, it nourishes our soul. Then, meaning, when we do something good and meaningful in the world, when we give back with gratitude that we can give back, that also and each level up fills us with more connection and more lasting pleasure. So I was on another show, and the guy said, the day before he was feeling miserable, he bought a whole big pizza pie, and he had two slices, and he was about to plow through the whole box of pizza by himself. There's a knock on his door. His neighbor needs his help for 2 minutes. I don't know, it was moving furniture or something. He comes back in, he looks at the pizza, and he doesn't want it anymore. What changed? What changed in those 2 minutes, you
It
know?
was the connection with another person, wasn't it?
Exactly. He had filled up with gratitude. He could help somebody else. He wasn't in his own estranged, alienated place anymore. He felt
Yeah.
connection. Exactly. So that's how it works. It works instantaneously. It works that quickly. It's amazing. And the higher than that level is creativity, which is surprising. But you'll notice that each level up, we are emulating the Almighty even more. in a more deeper
Mm.
way. So creativity, you know how when you're being creative, you don't feel like eating or sleeping. You are in a zone. It's
Hmm.
such a pleasurable zone that you're even like beyond time. You're unaware of time passing. It's you're putting a unique part of yourself into the world. You're shining your beautiful light. So when we do something good and meaningful, like anybody could have moved the furniture, but
Mm.
it's just uniquely you. It gives you such joy. And God made you with unique gifts, every single person to put into the world. And we get so much joy when we bring it out. And the highest level is called transcendence.
Mm.
It's recognizing that we're all connected and we're
Absolutely.
all connected. Yes, we're all connected to the same source of energy.
Hmm.
It's flowing through all of us. So it's also when we transcend our own limitations, we make that first crack in a bad habit. We we reconnect to our soul. We reconnect to who we really are, which is infinite light. So that's I on my website I have the pleasure ladder with more details. Yeah, people can download a free copy of this chart to put on their fridge or their cabinet, like wherever, to remind them, because the reason that we engage in addictions is because we feel a sense of scarcity of pleasure in our lives at that moment. So this reminds us that there's an abundance and we have the ability to bring it into our lives at any moment.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a positive message. And for our listeners, what is your website?
So my website is, oh, it's a brand new, my children made up the website name. They just changed it. It's called Growing Impact Publications, because we are growing our impact around the world of teaching children from the beginning of life happiness skills, and then adults as well. We play catch up, but anybody could change at any point in their lives and just fill their lives with more and more gratitude.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Bracha, is there a person who acted as a guide or mentor on your spiritual journey?
Yeah, there was this amazing rabbi. He's no longer alive, Reb
Hmm.
Noah Weinberg, and he developed the pleasure ladder concept based on the ancient mystical teachings. He knew how to talk to people that had no background and teach us the deepest wisdom in life in a way that we could integrate it into our lives. So yeah, that he was a major mentor in my life. Yeah.
And what do you remember him teaching you?
He taught, he designed the pleasure ladder
He designed
concept
the ladder.
based on ancient mystical teachings from the Kabbalah. And so now I am loving spreading his teachings. This is what I'm blessed to do through my books and through the presentations that I give. And yeah, it's it's a tremendous joy for me to be able to gratefully spread these amazing insights.
Absolutely. And would you elaborate a little bit more about the Kabbalah and what it is and what you've learned from it?
Um, it's the deepest wisdom in the Torah, which is the Bible,
Hmm.
and and the deep mystical teachings which are not written down. What we believe is that the Bible is written in code, actually, and that it's very hard to understand it just the way it is.
Mm.
It makes sense literally, but there's many other deeper levels of meaning to it,
Hmm.
and that's explained in the Kabbalistic teachings, which are the deep mystical holy writings um, based on the biblical teachings.
Wonderful. And speaking of those holy writings and biblical teaching, is there a significant passage of scripture or a spiritual quote that really resonates with you?
There was a Hasidic um, rabbi who taught this line, and I don't know why it resonates with me so deeply. I have no idea, but it's a song that we sing also. And the words are, um, the world is a narrow bridge, but the main thing is not to be afraid. And I can't even explain why that resonates with me so much, but I was very afraid of the world when I didn't understand that there was an ultimate goodness to this world and that all of us, we are also ultimately good. We are also divine sparks. The world seemed like a really scary place to me. So, in fact, the eating disorder behavior and addictions in general are a way to get a sense of control back when the world feels like a place that you can't trust. So as I came to develop trust again, like I had as a child once, now I trust the world again, that there's an ultimate goodness to this world and that we're ultimately good. Um, the world stopped being such a scary place for me. And so the main thing is not to be afraid. It's to recognize that there is infinite goodness really here if we get to open our eyes and see the world that way. So
Mm,
that for some reason always has an impact on me. That that word, that line that's in a song, that I guess it reminds me of my past and living in fear. and and the bridge, I just realized this minute, is that bridge of gratitude. That's the relationship. That's what keeps us from being afraid. That bridge that we have, that's our way of giving back. And that's really our whole purpose for being here, to enjoy this world in gratitude.
that's such a beautiful message. I absolutely love that, and I agree wholeheartedly. Finally, Bracha, I'd like to ask you one question. What spiritual insights have you gained from your journey that you would like to share?
Okay, I'm going to share, like, this is a quote that I love so much. It's right up here. I'm going to read it. What's the difference between a happy life and a miserable one?
What's the difference between a happy life and a miserable one?
How grateful we are. That's really the whole difference. It's that simple. It's really the secret to happiness.
Be grateful. Bracha Goetz, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Really a pleasure. Thank you so, so much.